Welcome to learning about high blood pressure, because your health is worth working for. Tonight, we are discussing foods that can help raise your blood pressure and foods that can lower your or cause issues. So it can either help your blood pressure or it can raise your blood pressure. And there's a lot more. Let me introduce Dr. Christina Miller. She is double board certified in emergency and integrative medicine, and she is laser focused on nutritional science and health promotion. So she totally supports a lifestyle medicine, and she is at Plant-Based Telehealth and is certified in 23 states. You can connect with Dr. Miller and plantbasedtelehealth.com and under Meet the Doctors. And that's Dr. Miller.
Thanks, Jean. And I get the honor of introducing Jean Schumacher. She is co-founder with Dr. Deborah Shapiro of the Pregnancy Advantage, which is a group that helps people who are pregnant, thinking about becoming pregnant, recently pregnant, or know someone who's pregnant. Literally, there is so much good information there. She works one-on-one with people to educate them on living plant-based. And you can connect with Jean through www.simplyplantbased.net and learn more from her programs. She has lots of great free resources, free cooking videos, recipes, classes, YouTube channel, which is Jean Schumacher, Simply Plant-Based. And she does way more than just the Pregnancy Advantage though. So you can find all sorts of tips about how to eat and live plant-based. So it's a great resource.
All right. Well, we just want to say, what we're talking about tonight is for educational purposes only. I mean, you have to, seek the advice of your physician before undertaking any kind of major changes, especially in your health. It's important.
Yes, I can't emphasize it enough. Please do make sure you're working with a doctor, especially if you're on blood pressure medicine and or diabetes medicine, as nutrition and lifestyle are powerful forms of medicine and can drop your blood pressure or your blood sugar significantly and actually lead to problems if you're not adjusting that rapidly and appropriately. So you need to be monitored and work with either your doctor or one of us at Plant-Based Telehealth or whoever it is that's helping you with your medications. And we want you to do your own research, do a deep dive, learn more. I'll let you say your line, Jean.
Oh, thank you. Because you only get one body. There's no do-overs, right? So your health is worth working for, without question. So, all right. So the first question, we've got two questions coming up that are intriguing to me, because I think food is medicine on so many different levels, and it's a medicine that has no side effects. Like when you look on the medicine bottle, there's just so many side effects. I can't even begin to tell you. So the first question is beet juice beneficial to lowering blood pressure? Take it away, Doc.
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, you'll see stuff. They're marketing that it is. So is it true? Does it really do that? And the reality is there are studies supporting this. So beets are extremely high in nitrates. Nitrates are converted to nitric oxide in our body. First nitrites and then nitric oxide, which actually vasodilate and widen those blood vessels. They soften the blood vessels and help lower blood pressure. And they're really important. And so nitrates are one of the highest vegetables. I mean, beet roots, it's in the actual beet part, not the greens as much, but the beet root part has a significant amount of nitrates. And there was a study where they looked at 8 ounces of beet juice per day in people who had a blood pressure between 140 and 159 systolic. And after having that beet juice for a couple of weeks, it lowered their systolic blood pressure by 10 millimeters of mercury just by adding that beet juice. And there's another study where they looked at just a shot of beet juice, half a cup or a cup of beet juice. And it turned out that half a cup seemed to have even more benefit than a cup. Once you got the most benefit out of a half a cup, and then there was no further benefit. So it was only half a cup that was necessary, and that turned out to be 8 milligrams of nitrates. So that was an interesting study, and you can find that study on nutritionfacts.org. And if you go to beets, you'll see that. Nutritionfacts.org, that's Dr. Michael Greger, and you'll see that study on beets. But in addition to that, well, I was going to say, I think that's a later question that we got or that we're going to talk about. But remember that the whole food is always better than the beet juice. So these studies were done looking at just the juice. But Jean and I both promote a whole food plant-based diet. So that means eating the whole beet, not just drinking the juice. So if all you can do is drink the juice, and that's great. But if you can't, or if you have beets, eating 2 beets is equivalent to that amount of beet juice. So you can slice them and put them on a salad. You can cook them into borscht soup, or I'm sure Jean has some recipes for all of this. Put in your smoothies. There's a lot that you can do with beets to get these benefits. In addition to that, just a few more benefits of it. So they actually have a low glycemic load, so they're not going to spike your blood sugar if you eat the appropriate amount of it because of all the fiber that's in it. And they help with exercise tolerance, so athletes have better performance after eating beets or drinking beet juice, and blood pressure goes down, and even blood sugar seems to be better balanced after eating beets. So I can't say enough good things about beets. What do you think, Jean?
I have to agree with you. Beets are amazing, and in my morning smoothie, I like to just add one big one. At my grocery store, I'm able to get the beets. They're already pre-cooked and in these little kind of vacuum pack things. Yeah. So, they're organic, they're great, they're already pre-cooked, and you don't have to go through the hassle of washing, scrubbing, although you get more, phytonutrients, I think, coming directly from the earth like that. But it's amazing. So I'll just take one and throw it in my smoothie, done, boom. And I, got it. Or if I'm doing salad that day, because I make big, enormous, salads, the size of my, plate, the size of my head. And, and I'll put some around because they are quite visually, they're pretty. They're pretty addition to your plate. So it's a very, very vibrant red, like your bloodstream. So.
And it seems like it's a bitter vegetable. I used to think that, but especially when you cook it, whether you steam it or boil it, like the way you're eating it, it actually turns out to be pretty sweet. So, and it doesn't spike your blood sugar, which I just mentioned, but I think they're delicious. So if people haven't tried boiled or steamed beet, I do recommend giving that a shot.
Yeah. And, I think one of the things that I want to make note of in this post is this food specifically going to help to lower blood pressure? Well, you're going to have to eat it. I mean, you can't just go, yeah, I had my beet for the month and I'm good. It's like I have them every day. They're like a power food. They're a powerhouse, and it helps to keep my blood pressure down. I mean, my blood pressure used to be out of control. I was on 4 meds. And so, no more. I don't like that. So,
That's amazing. That is so amazing every time you say that. But that's kind of how it is with diet and lifestyle changes. As long as you're doing it, you get the results. But if you stop, you go back to your old habits, you stop eating these foods, or you stop exercising, or you stop meditating. All of those have benefits for lowering blood pressure. But when you stop doing them, you lose that benefit. So it's a lifestyle. These are lifestyle treatments that we want to incorporate daily and figure out how to build a routine around.
Exactly. I mean, salt is another big one, and I'm just going to touch briefly on that because I know we've talked about it in other shows, but I can't have salt. End of story. So there's salt already in the foods that naturally, the amount nature intended for us to have. So there's so much salt in all of the processed foods that we're eating. If you're eating out, that's one of the easiest things they can do to increase their revenue, because drinks they make the highest amount. They put a lot of salt, which makes you thirsty, and then you drink a lot and order drink after drink. So it's one of the strategies. Plus, it's cheap. It makes the food taste really good. Not going to lie, I love salt, but I can't eat out because of the sodium. If you ever look at some of the restaurants and how much sodium they put into their dishes, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next question up. So we talked about something that can help lower it. Now we're going to talk about something that can raise it. Okay. So we want to not have these foods in our life. So sugar. Can cutting back on sugars help with blood pressure? And, because I read that sugar is actually worse than salt when it comes to blood pressure. This is the question that was posted in the Facebook group, High Blood Pressure Support Group. Doc, take it away.
Interesting question. And so it's funny that sugar isn't talked about more. Salt became the villain and for raising blood pressure, and sugar, nothing is really said. It's okay to eat your sweets and no problem. But actually we know this to not be true at all. And so what sugar does raise blood pressure is the answer. It may not work as fast as salt. So Jean, you eat a little bit of salt and your blood pressure spikes immediately. You know that salt was the culprit. Sugar may not be quite as rapid, but yes, it still affects your blood pressure and can raise it by 8 to 10 millimeters of mercury, which is pretty significant. And the way that it does that is several ways. So one thing that sugar does is it spikes your insulin, right? We know that unprocessed, and it's not just sugar, it's refined carbohydrates. So eating a blueberry muffin has sugar and refined carbohydrates. Eating a piece of cake or a cookie, eating something, anything like that, these refined carbohydrates and sugar, what they do is they spike your blood sugar, as we know, and that spikes your insulin. And insulin sends off the stress response, which is to send off sympathetic nerve stimulation, and that leads to constricting of the blood vessels, so you get peripheral constriction, and that leads to raised blood pressure. So that's one thing it does. Along those same lines is sugar is triggering the inflammatory response because of this high insulin. So insulin is known to be inflammatory when we have extra insulin. We obviously need insulin and it's necessary for human life, but extra insulin can be pro-inflammatory. And this pro-inflammatory response triggers all those hormones in that sympathetic nervous system again to constrict. So it's two ways. It also increases your amount of renin, which leads to increased salt absorption at the level of the kidneys, which leads to increased blood pressure. And it also increases the amount of leptin in your blood, which also is a stress response type thing. And if you ignore that and keep eating it, that also can lead to lower nitric oxide production. So there's all these different pathways which ultimately lead to lower nitric oxide and or sympathetic system stimulation, which lead to higher blood pressure. So it's very interesting, and it's funny that it's not talked about. And honestly, Jean, and between you and me and everyone listening, I think that's because of the sugar industry lobbying that sugar is not a big deal and that you can eat it. And that's why people aren't aware of that. What do you think?
Well, interesting that in the last update of, if you look at a label on the back of a package, if you look there, when they just redid the label, for the first time, they had to write the daily nutritional requirement of sugar. Up to that point, as a percent, up to that point, they just wrote milligrams, which most people didn't understand because you didn't know how many you were supposed to have. So you really can't, in your head, figure out the percentage. But now it's on the label, and I'm pretty sure they fought tooth and nail not to have that on there, because up to this point, they didn't have to. And so now they do. And so that's a big wake-up call, I think, to a lot of people. Because when you look on the back of a sports drink or something like that, you see how much sugar's in there, and you're really not supposed to have much sugar at all. So
yeah, the recommended amount of sugar for a woman is just 6 teaspoons a day, which is 24 grams of sugar. So if you read a label, if you pick up a thing of ketchup and have a serving or two, that is going to be perhaps 10 grams of sugar, and you're only allowed 24 grams in the day. So you can see it. You have a piece of bread and a little bit of ketchup, and you've already hit your mark, and you haven't even had any sweets or dessert or anything. So, right. And the reason that was set, and for guys, it's a little bit more. I think it's right. 8 grams or 9 grams. I can't remember, but for women, it's definitely 6. And the reason that was set by the American Cardiology Conference and organization. And that was because it was shown that high blood sugar increases risk of heart attacks and all-cause mortality. And so is it because of the increased sympathetic nervous system? Probably. Or the reduced nitric oxide? Probably. Or the inflammation and the high blood pressure? Probably. It's probably all of those things, which is why our level of sugar should be so low. And it's not even really talked about. And people are far exceed that without even thinking twice oftentimes.
Right. No, for sure. For sure. And when you stop and look at how much sugar there is in some fruits too, or even just like some of the, like you go into like Whole Foods, I just did my grocery shopping for the weekend, and I started at Trader Joe's and see what, they had. And they would always be like, by the time I get there, the shelves are like gone, some of them. So then I'll go to Whole Foods and whatever I can't get at Trader Joe's, I get there. And so, you know, you start to see some of the sugars in some of the fruits are pretty crazy, you know, like the fruit drinks and stuff like that they have on the shelves. You know, you could have 35, 40, 50 grams of sugar in there. I mean, it hits your brain. You're like, wow, this tastes really great, because there's like a phenomenal amount of sugar in it. And it's a fruit drink, but it's like, it's hitting your, you know, again, your receptor, because all of a sudden, and your liver is getting this massive hit of sugar, you know, at the same time. So,
and the difference between that, like if you were to drink 2 cups of orange juice, or which only contained orange as the ingredient, or eat an orange or 2, the difference is that orange or 2 has a lot of fiber, and that fiber slows that blood sugar. So you can eat fresh fruit. So for anyone thinking, oh my God, I can't have sugar. No, fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, both of them have been shown to lower blood pressure. So people who eat the most fruit and vegetables have lower blood pressure. So switch out your sugar for an orange. Right now, the oranges are so good. I'm like, have one every single day.
Those? I call them ugly oranges. Have you seen them? I don't know what they're called in the grocery store, but I call them ugly oranges. And they have the biggest, thickest peel. They peel so easy.
Oh, the sumo oranges, I think you're talking about.
I think they're called that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I just see them in the grocery store, and it's like, ah.
Yeah,
they're coming out right around this time.
They're like candy, and if people are looking for, oh my God, what can I replace with? Well, turn to Jean and her websites for recipes on desserts, sweetener, ways to sweeten it. You can sweeten it with fruit. Mixing an apple into your dessert will sweeten it, or banana will sweeten it, or applesauce will sweeten it. You can use dried fruit in small amounts to sweeten something. So there's ways that you can sweeten, which has fiber, which is not pro-inflammatory. It's not going to stimulate your sympathetic nervous system and raise your blood pressure. And you can still have these treats that, you know, sometimes we're looking for, but without these other side effects.
I know. I mean, and what I do is I'm human. You know, it's not like, oh my God, you must have all this incredible willpower. It's like, no, I'm a food addict, and I'll be the first to go, hi, I'm Jean Schumacher. I'm a food addict. And so what I do is I learn to substitute, you know, so I still want to have something sweet. I'm not going to lie. I like, you know, sweet, and I like salty, love salty, but I've learned to replace. So like for my sweet, I'll make these popsicles, and the popsicles are to die for. And it's just made with bananas, cocoa powder, you know, and I use dates for sweetening, almond milk, and I get creative with some other ingredients. I'll add some extracts and stuff like that to give it a little bit more flavor to it, but without the sugar. And it's incredible, the taste. And I'll add a little bit of oatmeal in there to get some more fiber. And you're only consuming in the popsicle mold, maybe a quarter cup, if that, maybe a third of a cup. So it's a small amount, but it's a popsicle, so you have to eat it slow. So you're eating it and you're like, wow, this is really great. I feel like I'm cheating. And you're not. You know, so this isn't about deprivation, this lifestyle, because people are like, yeah, so what do you eat? There's like, you know, grass clippings, tree bark, you know, you just live on salads? No. And if
popsicles sound amazing.
I know. And if anybody's listening, I posted in the group today, I did my batch cooking. Shop, chop, prep, and batch cook. You cook once, eat many times. When you see what it is to be prepared for the week, then you can be successful. So that's it. But I gotta point this out, Chris, because we're, you know, we need to wrap this up for tonight. We've been talking, we just talked about a food that's going to help lower the blood pressure. We talked about one that we need to get out of our diet. Okay. So, but I think talking about a specific food is a very reductionist thought process. I mean, looking specifically at the beet juice and then thinking of this as some magic bullet, or looking at the sugar and saying, oh, bad sugar. We need to think in whole terms, like you pointed out. Like if you're eating fruit, okay, it's got the fiber, it's got the nutrients, there's just symphony of synergistic relationships that are going on in this fruit as you're eating it. And by the way, it's delicious. It's like, did blueberries always taste that amazing? Or blackberries? It's like, so good. Mangoes? Oh, is there anything more heavenly on this planet than a mango? But I mean, okay, you have to, and I think about the book by T. Colin Campbell, Whole, in case you haven't read this. Everybody needs to read this. It's a little dry, the statistics, it's a lot of information coming at you. But the point being that you have to think of nutrients working together like a symphony. You can't just take one instrument out and go, Like if you took the baritone out and just listen to the baritone by itself is not going to be the most, I don't know, you don't sit there and listen to the baritone classics, But when the baritone is within the symphony, it sounds beautiful. It sounds gorgeous. And you're like, wow. But it's all the instruments together. And it's very much like how the nutrients work together in the food. Whole. You have to get it whole. Talk to us about this.
I would take it even one step further and say it's not just the diet, it's the lifestyle. They all go together. We're looking at a holistic picture of each person.
Right.
And so you eat this diet that is fiber rich and filled with antioxidants and phytonutrients and low in inflammatory type of foods like sugar or salt. And so you're doing the big picture like Jean just said, and at the same time, you're working on a nice calm mindset and you're working on getting quality sleep, you're moving your body. And it's almost hard to me these days to tease it out. When I work with my patients, I put them on plans, comprehensive plans for each person based on what's going on with them. And they see improvements. I don't know if it was because they're changed their diet or now they're working on dealing with stress a little bit differently or they're sleeping significantly better because we made some changes. I don't know which one is the cause and I don't know if I care. It's comprehensive. They're a holistic person. And so it's bigger than focusing on beet juice, although it's fun to add something into your diet, as you read that it's super healthy, but that's not the only thing you're doing. Exactly like you said.
Exactly. No, 100%. And if anybody is looking for a doctor, they're like, yeah, no, this is not working. All your doctor's going to do is put you on medications. I'm the first to tell you that there's another way, that you can do it by what's at the end of your fork. But there is a lot to learn. And so if you're looking for someone who can guide you, that is Dr. Miller. And you can connect with her at Plant-Based Telehealth because you're going to need to have blood work. Your blood work is your report card, okay, of what you've been doing over the last couple of months. So, she can help. She can do the blood work with you. She can guide you on, push you down the path. That's her job. She pushes you down the path and says, okay, go. And then she'll meet back with you to go over your blood work and to help guide you and be in response to your medications. Because if you're on high blood pressure medications and you switch to a whole food plant-based lifestyle, you are going to have to be monitoring your blood pressure every day and be in contact with your doctor who's supervising your medication, because your medication needs to change and change right away. Because if you're taking too much, it can bring your blood pressure down too quickly. That's not good either. Okay. So if you're looking for a doc, she's amazing. So I just got to put a plug in for you. Put a plug in for you, Doc.
Thank you. Well, it's fun for me to get to work with people who are motivated to make dietary and lifestyle changes, because that's when we see results. And
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the bottom line. You see the results.
Eat plants and take care of yourself, and we'll get results. I can guarantee it, basically.
I know. And I see all the comments in this group, in this Facebook group, for high blood pressure. And it's just like everybody's concerned about their medications, about the side effects, long-term issues, and everybody's afraid of a heart attack, because I read I was the one who created the questions, and there's 4 questions you have to answer. And one of them is, what is your biggest concern? And I see death, I see heart disease, I see heart attack. I mean, this is the big concern about it. And it's like, yeah, that'll really seriously put a crimp in your day. If you have a heart attack or a stroke or, any of those things, that's going to really annoy you. So
do so much more than annoy you. It's the #1 killer of both men and women. So it's actually very serious. So
it is.
Not to end on a serious note or anything, but the cool thing is that there's a lot we can do about it, and it's fun and tasty, and we all enjoy it. We made the changes for health reasons as well, and we love it. We got our results and we are loving it. So if you're scared initially or you're not sure, that's where you want to talk to people and join a group and get some help and support, because once you jump on board and you start to see the results and how good you can feel, you'll never want to go back like we are.
And you're going to have questions, just saying, And I just have to end with this comment. If you do not make time for your health, you will make time for your illness. Think about that. Hashtag read that again, or in this case, hashtag listen to that again. Okay.
And focusing on health is so much more fun than focusing on illness. I'll tell you what, as an emergency room doctor, we saw illness. As a lifestyle medicine doctor, I focus on health and getting well. And it's so much more fun.
I know. It is. Because I'm going to be out up on Cape Cod, hiking, kayaking, biking, till the day I pass from this planet. And that's what I want to do, and just quietly go in my sleep. That's the plan. Okay. And that's what I'm working on right now, is to make sure that happens. So Dr. Miller, thank you so much. Always a pleasure, because I always learn so much from you. I do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're just you dive into the research at all times. You're just so knowledgeable. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Jean, and thank you for this discussion. And I thank everybody for the questions and being a part of this. It's great to get to talk to people who are interested in getting healthy.
Right.